things men don't want to hear, part 5. A lot of us men don't like feminists or feminism because we feel like it's an attack on our masculinity. And that's because so much of our masculinity is rooted in the oppression of women. And because feminism seeks to liberate women from that oppression, we feel attacked. I know I didn't want to hear that.
Fellas, never date activists, feminists, or Me Too movement women. Friend zone them, be their friends, and never spend your energy trying to argue or convince them to change. I'm not here to convince anybody what movement or what things should happen with the world, at least not right now. But when it comes to choosing a long-term partner, you want to choose someone who has more traditional conservative values. You don't want a headache. You don't want a woman that's asking you a million questions a day or bossing you around like they're the man. You want someone that is feminine, that lets you lead, and has more conservative traditional values. Dating a feminist or activist will ruin your life. And also avoid any woman who has slept with more than 5 men, because that imprints into their brain and it causes a higher chance of divorce and cheating. When you meet traditional, incredible women, usually are first generation Americans or just have really strong family values, it's like your life has been changed forever. You're like, wait, there's actually women that think like
men are coming out to expose the real reason why they hate feminists, the real reason why they hate feminism. You want to stay tuned and watch till the end. What is feminism? Feminism is advocating for gender equality. We are basically advocating for equal rights between men and women, politically, socially, and economically. But so many men have the whole idea messed up. They have it messed up. They think feminism is about hating men. They think it's about female superiority. And because of this mindset, they feel threatened by it. So many of them are coming out to expose why they cannot stand feminists and the real reason why they hate feminism. Let us dive into it.
How do you date a feminist?
You don't. That's how you do it. I don't know about y'all boys, but I don't want to be in a relationship with a woman whose sole intent is to make me feel as irrelevant and unnecessary as possible. I don't know, but I like appreciation. You can be in that relationship. That's cool. But that's not for me. I'm all about female empowerment.
Right. All day.
I know feminism though.
Right.
That new feminism is all about saying how we can replace y'all because we don't need men in the world.
The feminism movement, the independent woman movement, men don't like it. The people whose attention you are vying for, we don't like it. You can have your assets, you can have your accomplishments, you can have your degrees, but that mentality that comes with the independent woman, the feminist movement, let me help you understand. Men don't like it. You ladies really need to grab this show today. I'm gonna speed right through it. When men don't like something, they treat it like it. Now, I want to say this for all of you ladies to hear. Those of you who you believe a man has done you wrong. I'm not saying that they haven't. Those of you who have gotten repetitious bad treatment from men and you think you're an amazing woman. When men don't like something, we treat it like it. I promise you this. Men have developed a low level of respect for what you ladies have become. We don't like it. Now, here's the part that may have you confused that I'm going to help you out with this part. I understand how you can be confused because you say, well, they still flirt with us and da-da-da-da. I get that. We want your poontang. We want your poontang. What you have become that men have been complaining about all over social media, the long Freddy Krueger fingernails, all of the hair weave that are all of you looking the same. Men don't like it. None of you are getting taken home to see his mom.
The patriarchy convinced men to hate femininity. And once you hate femininity, it don't matter who it's attached to. It don't matter if it's attached to a woman, a man, a child. It don't matter if it's now and then they put everything that makes men decent people, integrity, patience, intelligence, the pursuit of, intelligence and education, having empathy, being nurtured. They put all of that under the umbrella of femininity. Conveniently, those are female traits. That's what females do, right? And it automatically does the trick, right? Now men don't want to be smarter. They don't want to be more empathetic. They don't want to because those are woman traits. That's the game. That's how they get you.
You guys probably know this by now, but in case you don't, never date a feminist. Not a good idea. I went on a date with 2 feminists back to back. And mind you, I didn't know they were feminists until I was on the date. But even though they're 2 separate people, I had the same conversation with both. It's like they shared the same mind. They're extremely arrogant and have the most fragile ego. If you do a friendly competition with them, or if they're right over something, they don't just be right and move on. They will gloat, they'll talk down to you. They are like the worst winners possible. They're extremely envious over men, but not actual men, because they don't have the empathy to see anything from our side. They're envious of the caricature that they think a man is. So that means they can't fathom us having any problems. Our life is perfect, and they're envious because they think our life is perfect. That's why they get extremely mad anytime we bring up any issues that's specifically for men. And on top of that, they want everything a woman do to be acceptable. Literally everything. We're supposed to accept whatever a woman does. If she's a woman, we're supposed to accept it. And while I was on a date with these two girls, it was one thing that triggered them first. And it was the fact that I said that I had standards. They hated that shit. The fact that I said that I wanted to be with someone who's attractive, they found offensive. They went on and on about how women have to live up to unrealistic beauty standards, while in reality, men are way more forgiving for women's beauty than women are for men's beauty. And when I brought it up to them, they just couldn't believe it. It just didn't sound right. They didn't want to believe it because it goes against their narrative. But I brought up two things that dismantled their whole argument. One, I said how most women prefer guys over 6 feet, and how guys over 6 feet is 13% of the population. That's a drastic amount of people that women don't want to look at. And number two, I said how 80% of girls would not date a guy that's shorter than them. Me saying those two things alone proves that men have a way more extreme standard of beauty than women. When I brought that up, they almost spontaneously combusted. Like they just couldn't rationalize that shit at all. So guys, if I don't have to reiterate this, don't date a feminist. They can't look at you like you're a human. You're the problem. You're evil no matter what you do. Just stay clear of that shit. Like if she's a feminist, okay, maybe you can smash, but don't take that serious. Why would you want to be in love and be with someone who hates you?
Do you know why rich men don't want to date a feminist? There's actually a few reasons. First is because they can't ever seem to relax. Something's always got to be about something else. There's always got to be a point. There's always got to be a fight. There's always got to be something to talk about. And wealthy men, their lives are filled with arguments, negotiation, trying to get one up on somebody else, conflict. They want to come home to a world without conflict. They want to be able to relax in their space. And feminists just can't relax. And second is that they're just too competitive. A feminist doesn't want a guy doing things for her because she thinks that means that she's less of a powerful, equal woman or whatever. So a feminist will say, stop doing all these things for me or I don't need you. Well, let me tell you, a rich man will tell you, fine, go find a guy who would rather mock you when you ask for a favor or ask for something nice. And they're like, go do it yourself. You're an independent woman. See, wealthy men, they love being great at stuff. They love doing things for people. They love doing hard things no one else can do to build a life no one else can have. And they're just striving to give that to somebody. And so a feminine who can receive all of the power of this masculine, this guy who's special for being a master of enterprise, and can give back something that he doesn't already have, which is optimism, peace, femininity. That's the divine trade that they're trying to make.
I hate feminism because it pretends to advocate for the choices of women, but in disguise, it's actually propagating degenerate choices like prostitution, like OnlyFans, like abortion, like sexual liberation. But when a woman chooses to be a housewife, they frown upon it. So feminism is not about women's choices. Feminism is about a class of choices that feminists have deemed worthy, blurs the lines between male and female. In fact, feminism brought about the very popular rise of transgenderism, premised on the fact that there isn't really any tangible difference between a man and a woman. What a man can do, a woman can do, including a woman being a man. Feminism is eroding traditional values, things like femininity. In fact, they frown upon femininity. They believe that femininity are premised on certain social norms and expectations that are not natural to women. In fact, they call it social conditioning. Women are not meant to be soft and graceful. No. I hate feminism because it doesn't have any objective moral moral foundation. They say they're all for equality and justice, but in reality, they are for degeneracy. They're telling women to, abort it, send it back to God. It's your body, your choice. This same feminism that cries about the ills of patriarchy and women are not allowed to express themselves, but they find their expression by trampling on the right of the unborn children in the name of body autonomy. I hate feminism because they've destroyed every principle of shame. They enable prostitution, sex work, that in women's body autonomy, they can choose to do anything they want to do, including selling their bodies.
I hate social media because people like you who are ignorant about feminism can take your microphone and make ridiculous assumptions without accurate knowledge. You hate feminism because you are jealous that women can actually make money off their body. You talk about feminism promoting sexual liberation, prostitution, and OnlyFans. Going by common sense, supply exists because of demand. Who are the people watching women on OnlyFans and making women rich? It is men. Who are the ones patronizing prostitution? It is men. Your problem is not with prostitution and OnlyFans. Your problem is with the fact that women can actually monetize and make money off those things. Men like you hate feminism, but you have dated multiple women and slept with those women for many years, but they didn't get anything out of it. The only time men are okay is when a woman gives sex freely in the name of a relationship and never get anything out of it. Your problem is not with prostitution or OnlyFans. Your problem is with the fact that women can actually take control, monetize off that, and make a living off that. That is where your problem is. Also, you talk about feminists being against housewives and feminine women. We are not against housewives or feminine women. We only tell housewives that the job they do at home is unpaid labor. And so if they choose to do that job at home for free, then they need to understand what they are sacrificing. Perhaps you have never heard of the term feminization of poverty. Feminization of poverty means that there are more women across the world who live in poverty compared to men. And the reason why more women live in poverty compared to men is the fact that most women commit their most productive years when they could work and earn a pension to taking care of the family and being primary care providers for their children. And so more women across the world live in poverty because of being a housewife and not participating in the labor market, consequently not having any pension when they are old.
I don't think men just hate women. I think they hate femininity as a whole. And I think them more than any other demographic are transactional when it comes to their appreciation for other people. They have to have some sort of sexual arousal or some sort of relatability to the person that they're perceiving in order to treat them like a human being. I think all of these facts are gone unseen by men themselves because they lack self-awareness, because the society is gun-ho on blaming women for every single issue that ever happens in this world. Not to mention, most men are not even that tough. They're just extremely sensitive and they want to hide it behind the fact that they're just trying to uphold core values. Because why is another man painting their nails so bad to you? Why does it bother you so much? To me, that's pretty soft. Also, along with the fact that they have dark humor until the dark humor affects them, they're also hyper individualistic, but they want every man to act like them. If you don't wear the same shoes, if you don't wear the same type of clothes, if you paint your nails, like I said before, they come after you in the most vicious way possible. But at the same time, if you bring up real issues to care about, then they all of a sudden go blank. They don't want to spend the energy and time uplifting or protecting people. They want to spend time acting like everybody who doesn't act like them is somehow subhuman. And then when those same people call them out on their bullshit, they play victim and say that everybody hates men. No, it's just that your guys' ideology is so hypocritical and convoluted. I'll stand on the most trivial things and expect us to take y'all seriously.
I'm convinced so many misogynistic men are afraid of feminism because they believe that feminism is trying to switch the already existing power structure. Essentially, they're afraid of being treated by women the same way society is already treating women.
There are a lot of men angry with life because they do not have the same opportunity as their fathers and grandfathers to control women. A lot of men are angry because a successful relationship is now based on performance rather than being a right of their gender. You will hear a lot of men talk about wanting to go back to the good old days of relationships where women stayed. However, listen clearly because the "as they had no rights" is silent. You will see a lot of men sit down and listen to horrible and sometimes heinous things women have endured in a relationship. And because of those horrible things, those women have decided to leave the relationship. And many men's conclusion will be to blame that woman for tearing her family apart, because they don't feel like their behavior or men's behavior should impact whether a relationship is successful. I think as women, we have all seen posts on social media where a woman has been unalived for trying to leave her husband. And the comment section will be full of deranged men laughing and applauding because how dare she try to do better for herself. The reality is a lot of men hate women's independence. They hate that women have the choice not to tolerate their terrible behavior. They hate that women have the opportunity to leave and start again and try to do better for herself. So I say all of this to say, while my content is focused on dating and relationships and how you can enter into a successful one, the reality is there are not enough good men for every woman to have one. I know we hate to hear that. So I would love as women if we were to extend our mindsets to all options for happiness, including singleness. Now, that's not to say if you find a good man that you don't build a life with him. That's to say don't settle for a bad man just because you want to be in a relationship. Because there are a lot of entitled demons out there who feel like if you don't fall in line, they have the right to control you by any means, including all types of abuse, and many who even feel like they have the right to unalive you. So yes, we're looking, ladies, for relationships with a few good men, but understand that there are a few good men. So remember, there's always an exception to the rule. For best results, assume it's not you.
The real reason that men hate feminism is because they're so used to having a monopoly on aggression and on the threat of removing their presence. Let's talk about the concept of aggression first, because this is more of an instinct that's buried deep within us, and it's very important to understand how men think about this. So aggression in women has for a long time not been acceptable. Aggression in women is seen as unladylike, and this goes especially for white women, and black women are often labeled negatively with this kind of aggressive or angry label. So either way, it's like weaponized against women just based on your skin color. It's weaponized differently. And it puts you in this position where you have to prove yourself, which is this submissive position where you're not allowed to express your aggression. You're not allowed to express it in any way, even in the form of slight or brutal honesty, in the form of rudeness, in the form of annoyance. That's something that's always been reserved just for men. Men communicate aggressively, whereas women are expected to communicate in more like submissive or cooperative ways. The problem is you can't have cooperation when one of you is in a dominant stance. So even when you try to do cooperative things, when somebody's stance over you is dominant, it's going to be viewed as submission and not cooperation. This is where a lot of women go wrong, because they try to cooperate with men for a long time before they realize men don't understand what cooperation means, and they are perceiving that cooperation actually as submission. So you're not really a team with them after all. Let me show you something. This right here is basically where men want you. They want to be able to express their aggression, and they want you to react like this, submissively. This is especially clear when men talk about like male loneliness epidemic, but this is the only way they know how to express feelings. This is very clear when, men want to come home from work and do nothing, and this is how they express that. This is very clear when men are like, I'm not emotional, I don't want to talk about my feelings, blah, 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 but they come home and they do this to their wife and children. So men really do expect to be able to go through the world communicating like this to women. And they also want to communicate like this to other men that are like beneath them, but that's a whole separate issue. This is how men view the world, and this is the stance that you're supposed to take. And feminism is about women having equal rights and not having to do this. Because of course, being able to have this expectation that you can move through the world like this gives men a lot of extra power over you, because you are told as a woman to move through the world like this. And this is the idea that feminism is attempting to change in women's minds. And men are not reacting well to it. All of a sudden, there's this huge backlash against feminism because they're realizing that feminism actually gives women the right to do something like this if they want to. Feminism gives women rights to protect themselves, to stand up to men, to not be forced into this kind of a position. And the thing that men don't understand about feminism is that it's supposed to put everybody on a level playing field. It's not supposed to switch these positions and put women in this position and men in this position. It's just supposed to allow a woman to be able to protect herself if she needs to, with aggression if she needs to, because that's what men expect to be able to do every second of every day. But they want to take that away from us women because it simply makes their lives easier. There is no complicated, it's a survival instinct. They realize that they're gonna have to fight a lot harder to survive whenever we're no longer forced to do this as women. All this shit that they tell us about, you have to understand that men are like this and like this. You're gonna catch more flies with honey and boys will be boys. You need to talk to him like this and you need to make sure he's eaten and all this stuff. That's you doing this. That's you being told you can't protect yourself. You can't stand up for yourself. You can't tell somebody when enough's enough. You have to just stay like this. It's the same thing when men tell you to like smile more, right? This is a monkey smiling a submissive smile. Men want to put you in this state where you are showing them constantly that you are submissive to them. I'm going to repeat myself. This is a very animalistic instinct. That's what they're following, just so you know. When you talk to men about progressive things and whatnot, you have to understand these are the terms in which they think. They want to be able to tell you when to let your guard down. You know, this whole smile more thing is basically make yourself not threatening to me as a man. Right? They're threatened by women displaying anything other than submission, right? That's where the smile more comes from. You need to remember that. Think about this. In order to really get somebody into a submissive stance like this, you have to have something they want, or you have to be able to present enough of a threat. And those are the two things, like men are deciding which button to press, and it's going to be the threat button every time. And that's why they're like, your body, my choice. You bitches need to go back into the kitchen, because then they would have this kind of power over you. Then they would have something they could take away. But men are stuck in this mindset. They're like, but then what am I going to threaten you with? If we're both equal, I will have nothing to threaten you with. I will have nothing to take away, because a lot of the reason that these animals like submit to each other, you know, the goal is like, okay, I'll do whatever you want, just you stick around, you know? And that's what men want to have over you. That's why they're obsessed with like getting you to quit your job and abandon your dreams and getting you pregnant, like proposing to you at your big life milestones, because they want to always be in this position. They believe that whoever in the relationship has the most resources, the most money, most pull or whatever is this guy. And they can't picture it any other way. They cannot picture equality. They only think of in terms of dominance and submission. And basically all that feminism is trying to do is to ungatekeep this. It is a place where women are allowed to express their rage and frustration. It is a place where women come to realize that they don't have to sit there and smile around men, that they don't have to accept abuse from men, that they can and should use the channels available to them to aggressively pursue and hold their abusers accountable. And in men's minds, that's not justice. That's the submission/dominance dynamic flipping. They only understand submission and dominance, and they never want to be the submissive one. So whenever they can sense women getting a little too powerful, they clamp down on us. They clamp back down on our rights, because if we were allowed to be as dominant and as aggressive as we want to be, and again, I say aggressive not in terms of like anger or rage necessarily. I say aggressive as in pursuing a career, putting their schoolwork first, going into STEM fields, things like that. If women were to actually do that, men would be done. Because look at what we've been able to do with like thousands of years of oppression on our back. As soon as the doors are open to us, we begin to dominate. Look at the schools, look at the workplaces in America, look at STEM fields, look at social media. All of those places, women are currently thriving. And men are perceiving that as aggression. And they're perceiving that as, oh, now I'm the submissive one? Hell no, bitch. Whereas women are like, oh, I can finally live my life as a human being. I finally don't need to depend on anybody for resources. I can finally just build my own life. I can finally not be expected to be somebody's like servant, maiden, you know, have a smile on my face 24/7. You know, if a man walks away from me, that's totally fine. I'll be able to provide for myself. I'll be able to do whatever I want. And men view that as they've lost their dominant position and they want that back at any cost. You have to understand, like, men who frame feminism in those kind of terms, like as if it's negative, that's what they're afraid of losing. This artificial dominance that they have been given by daddy government, which they invented in order to keep women down. And that's why the government will never really give women their full rights back. Like, that's why we're always going to be teeter-tottering on this line of like, oop, now you have them, now you don't. Now you have a right to your body, the next day you don't. That's it. They always want to keep you in this like submissive stance to men, because otherwise men become a real fucking problem. They really do. They're extremely self-destructive and others destructive when they're not allowed to dominate over women. And if you don't think that the people in government know that, they absolutely know that. This is also why prisons are full of men, because men think like animals. So just keep that in mind as you move about the world, and like as you wonder why certain things are happening, just keep that in mind. And please stay safe out there. I love you so much. Godspeed.
Number one reason why men hate feminism is because they feel threatened by it. They have misunderstood the whole concept of feminism. They think it is about hating men. They think it's about female superiority. That is why when you tell a man you're a feminist, he automatically thinks you hate men. They think feminists hate men. They think you're an independent woman. And in the back of a man's mind, you know what an independent woman means? A woman who doesn't want to do anything for a man. A woman who doesn't want to rely on a man. Who doesn't need a man. And when you say you're a feminist, they assume that you're an independent woman. You don't need a man, or you hate men. This is the mindset they have about feminism. They have misunderstood the whole concept behind it. The only thing women want is equal rights, politically, economically, and socially. That is all we are asking for. Blame and accusation from feminists. A lot of men think feminists are accusing them as the oppressors and the brain box behind the patriarchy, which is true. You guys were the oppressors and you guys are the brain box behind the patriarchy. This system which you created. Who created it? Men. When feminists come out to talk about the fact that men are the oppressors, which they are, they don't like that because they don't like the truth. They don't like to feel blamed and accused for the very same things which they are responsible for. Phrases like toxic masculinity or male privilege can feel like accusations to those who are unfamiliar with the concept, rather than critics of the system. Another reason why they feel threatened by feminism or by feminists is because feminism threatens gender roles. It challenges gender roles. For example, the man being the provider and the woman being the caregiver or the nurturer. As women gain more power socially, economically, and politically, a lot of men feel threatened. They feel like they are losing opportunities, they are losing their power, their status over women, because women are getting the job opportunities and every other thing which they expected to have. They feel weak, they feel threatened when women are making it more than them. Is negative experiences with feminists. There are a lot of men who may have had a bad experience with a woman who is a feminist, or a bad experience or a bad debate with feminists, so they generalize it. They automatically assume that the whole movement is hostile towards men. Some men may have encountered feminist women they couldn't control or manipulate, so they automatically assume that feminism trains women to be difficult, so they don't want to deal with women like that. And some of the online debates which they watch concerning feminism, this has caused them to generalize the whole movement to be hostile. The media and pop culture portrayal of what feminism or feminists is all about. Some media portrays feminists as angry, bitter, and anti-male, reinforcing stereotypes. This creates a strawman version of feminism that is easier to dislike. The next point is disagreement with modern feminist goals. Not all anti-feminist sentiment is based on ignorance or hatred. Some men and women genuinely disagree with certain feminist positions, such as gender quotas, views on sex work or pornography, trans inclusion in feminist spaces, and specific legal reforms, for example, family law and affirmative action. It is important to know that not all men are anti-feminists. Some of them are feminists who support gender equality. They support gender equality in practice, even if they avoid the label. Most of these men who claim to be anti-feminists, if it was their daughter involved, they would be feminists. They want their daughters to have equal rights. but when it concerns a random woman, all of a sudden they're anti-feminist. Another thing to remember is generalizing and saying all men hate feminism is the same thing as saying all feminists hate men. Not all feminists hate men, and not every man is against feminism. There are so many of them who are feminists and also support the movement. Anyways guys, I'm going to leave this video here. I don't want to make it long, but you've heard it from the horse's mouth. The same way some men are against feminism is the same way there are so many men who support the movement, because they have a clear-cut understanding of what the whole concept is all about. Anyways, drop your thoughts in the comment section. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'm going to see you guys in my next video. Bye. Love you.